Hated is a very strong word, and when you say the most hated attachment in every Call of Duty, that's pretty serious. Nobody wants naked guns all the time in Call of Duty, right? Attachments are a huge part of it, but not all attachments are an improvement to the game. I mean, can you guys honestly sit here and look me in the eyes and tell me that the grenade launcher was a good addition to COD 4? Can you? Yes, I know. COD 4 was an experimental game. So there was no way that Infinity Ward knew this was going to be such an issue, but it was the beginning of a very frustrating legacy that continues to this day right now, although it's not nearly as prominent, thankfully. COD 4 grenade launcher, it was available on all the assault rifles. Came with 2 shots that you could blow people away with in the blink of an eye across the map, and this wasn't even close to being the most annoying iteration of the Noob Tube. But when it comes to COD 4 weapon attachments, I think it was by far the most hated. Yes, we're going to go from COD 4 all the way to Black Ops 7, so strap yourselves in because the every COD series, it's a marathon these days. Welcome back to it, everybody. Do me a super, super fast favor if you can on your phone, on your PC, wherever you're at. If you're into golf at all, do me a favor and help me get to 1,000 subscribers over on Jimmy's Golf. We are halfway there. I would love to see some of you over. It's funny because I make videos over there and then somebody will stroll by and be like, I saw you in the recommended. I knew the voice. And then I realized it was Chaos. It's pretty cool every time it happens. Anyway, yeah, link in the description. AI couldn't have done that. AI wouldn't have paused right there and completely forgot their train of thought or anything like that. So to the guy the other day that brought back the whole Jimmy AI meme and his voice is AI, come on. Seriously? Okay, link is in the description. Jimmy Golf. Pin comment. Jimmy Golf. Jimmy Golfs. Yeah. World at War. Now, there weren't too many attachments in World at War, but I have to pick one of them because we have to do it to make this list work. And looking back at the era, I do remember there being quite a bit of annoyance toward the extended mags, mainly because of how people abused them on guns like the MP40 and the PPSH. These were guns that were already super powerful, but they were balanced with the limited ammo and relatively long reload animations. But if you slapped on extended mags or box mags or whatever you called them for certain guns, you could just hold down the right trigger and spray away without a care in the world. The MP40 in particular got a ridiculous ammo buff from extended mags, and with how overpowered it was by default, it didn't help the reputation. Like I said, there weren't many attachments in the game, so I don't even think this is the most hated attachment in the grand scheme of things, but I have to put something on the list to service the topic. So yeah, I think the most negative words were thrown towards people abusing the extended mags. And did I say at the beginning of this that these guns were balanced with limited ammo? It's funny. Modern Warfare 2, the grenade launcher. There's no other possible outcome or answer here. It's inevitable. The grenade launcher was brought back from COD 4, buffed into oblivion, made it arguably the best attachment in the entire Modern Warfare sub-series because of the damage it could be done per shot, especially if you were running it with danger close. There was literally people who would load into games, get into a corner, launch grenade launcher shots across the map, and then use one-man army to resupply, and they could do that the entire match, 10 minutes. And the only reason they were doing that is because it was a completely viable strategy, because that is how good the grenade launcher was. It ruined so many Modern Warfare 2 matches, but it was also by far the best and most hated attachment in the game. Grenade launchers were never this powerful again, and this is an objectively good thing. If you were one of the people back in the day with this, don't admit it in the comment section today. You're going to get exposed. Black Ops 1. Yeah, are you playing right now? Are you playing on PS4, PS5? Are you making new emblems? Yeah. Okay, the Master Key. Really wasn't that good, right? But it was also impossible to see coming, which made it hated on in rare occasions when you did see it. Master Key was an underbarrel pump action shotgun you could put on most of the rifles, and it wasn't that strong, but it was always a bit of a shock to see somebody holding a FAMAS or an AUG run up to them and then get instantly blown away by a shotgun you couldn't even see. So I guess it was more annoying than good, but it still made it one of the most hated attachments in the game. Like I said, it was rare to see online because it wasn't strong, but when it did show up, it was going to cause some salt because you never saw it coming. The enemy soldier would be holding an assault rifle, and then you get insta-killed by a little baby shotgun they'd strap to the bottom of it. Now, let's move on to Modern Warfare 3. This was a bit of a rare one because it was widely looked down upon, right? And that it was actually enough to keep people from equipping it. I'm talking about the heartbeat sensor. Every once in a while, you'd see somebody running the heartbeat sensor, and it was always really annoying because it was literally a free UAV to the user. And in case you never actually used it in classic MW3, I mean, just the heartbeat sensor from modern COD games, but instead of being a piece of equipment you had to manually pull out, it was strapped to your rifle permanently, constantly pinging enemies in front of you, regardless of whether or not they were behind cover. It was super cheap. It was super frustrating, right? Thankfully, it wasn't that popular, but it was definitely the most hated attachment in this game. Next up is easily the most hated optic in Call of Duty history. the Black Ops 2 Target Finder. Once again, how are you experiencing it in all its glory right now on the ports? The Target Finder was a close-range digital scope, would give you a very clear view of the field in front of you while also highlighting all enemy players with a giant red diamond around them, which allowed you to light them up even if it was just their toe in the screen. Impossible to hide from too, right? Most Target Finder users were using it on an LSAT, which was just way too good. And did I mention that the Target Finder worked through smoke screens? You could throw down a smoke grenade, hold the Target Finder up to your eye, lay prone, blast people who literally couldn't do anything about it. It was easily the cheapest optic in Call of Duty history, by far the most hated attachment in this game. This is another one that you probably shouldn't admit to using. Now, this next one wasn't as annoying as the Target Finder, but it was close. The Ghost Thermal Scope, or Thermal Hybrid, they were both toxic, it didn't matter, would make enemy players super obvious by coloring them with bright white while dimming the rest of the environment around them. Now, a lot of people would sit around with the LMGs at head glitches or vantage points or even just prone out in the middle of the map and watch the entire match through their thermal scope. Again, not quite as annoying and cheap as the Target Finder, but pretty close. Definitely the most hated attachment in Ghost. Now, in Advanced Warfare, I don't think there was any super obnoxious attachments. I don't. But there was one that was pretty sweaty, and I'm going to give it to the Advanced Rifling. It was available on SMGs. You would typically see people sweating it with it in their ASM1 classes. The Advanced Rifling would give you a pretty fat 25% range boost, so on the gun, like the ASM1, which already had impressive range for an SMG, it made it even better. Almost all the assault rifles, I mean, it was right there with them. I guess that was the closest thing there was to a properly hated attachment in the game. I mean, AW had a lot of flaws, but there wasn't any real stupid attachments like the Target Finder or the Noob Tube that I can think of. Now we move on to Black Ops 3. High caliber. Beefy bonus to your headshot damage. Sounds fine, but the reason it was so hated was because Treyarch already changed how flinch worked in this game. Seemed like you were always, you would always flinch straight up if you were getting shot by somebody, right? So if you're running high caliber and you aimed at their stomach, your aim would actually kick up straight to their head if they shot you back at you. I mean, this led to a lot of really frustrating situations where you'd shoot somebody 2 to 3 times, but then they would instantly kill you when they fired back because they were running high caliber and your shots caused their aim to kick up to your head. You were literally being punished for shooting them, and they were being rewarded for getting shot. I mean, I get that Treyarch was trying to make headshots more valuable, but I think that was a swing and a miss. Infinite Warfare. I think it was less about what the foregrip did in Infinite Warfare and more about how the community used the foregrip. Because I can't even tell you how many times I saw people running the foregrip on their MV4, which seemed like a waste of an attachment because the MV4 had no recoil anyway. But for some reason, a lot of people were running the foregrip on the MV4, basically so they could eliminate that small itty-bitty amount of thought and effort that went into using this gun. If you used the foregrip on any other guns, it was understandable. Yeah, if you put a foregrip on the MV4, you're honestly a douchebag. I mean, if you seriously thought the MV4 had too much recoil, you're going to spend one of your pick 10 slots on the foregrip to counteract it, I think you weren't very good at the game. And yet, you probably still top the leaderboard every match because you were using the MV4. COD World War II. These bad boys were available on most of the shotguns and completely despised across the board. I'll give you 3 seconds to guess. 1, 2, 3. Incendiary shells. This was the first time in COD history you could actually set somebody on fire with a shotgun in multiplayer, and it only took a few days for the community to realize these are broken. For the cost of a small damage range nerf, you would set your target on fire and take off more of their health over the next couple seconds, and that was not the only annoying effect to have on your screen. It was inherently less skill-based because basically you were bailing the user out for not killing you with a single shot. I mean, think about this. If you're using a shotgun, you should be able to comprehend the fact that you don't kill somebody with a single shot. They're going to fire back at you while you're pumping the weapon and preparing the next shot. So that means you have to be careful about when you're firing, what range you're firing from, how precise you're being so you can get the pellets on target, right? But with the incendiary shells, the burning effects were basically just giving you that last 10 to 20% of the damage that you needed for freedom. Yeah, you'd hit somebody, they wouldn't die because you didn't hit them in the right place or you didn't land enough pellets, but then the incendiary shells would finish them off. So you're basically being rewarded for not being smart about your shotgun playstyle. And if you thought the COD World War II incendiary shells were hated, just wait till we get into some of the other fiery attachments on this video. Black Ops 4, I do not understand whose idea it was to put a strobe light on a shotgun, nor do I understand how nobody at Treyarch decided to axe this thing before launch, but here we are. The strobe light attachment. Only available on the SG-12 shotgun. By far the most obnoxious thing in the game. You were literally given an infinite flashbang to put on the barrel of your semi-auto shotgun so you could blind the target and then spam them with shotgun shells into their face until they died. Does that sound fair? I mean, does that sound like a healthy addition to the game? Because it wasn't. And even though I can't deny it was fun to use, it was by far the most hated thing in the game and definitely one of the most hated attachments in COD history. This actually might be a top 3 most hated attachments in the entire franchise. And I think every time I mention the strobe light, there's a few defenders that come in. And I don't remember what their angle is, but I'm sure I'll see them in the comment section. Modern Warfare 2019. Dragon's Breath rounds. Fire shotguns. COD World War II came back in Black Ops 4, reached a whole new level of toxic in MW19, where they were available on almost every shotgun in the game, and then you had access to the gunsmith, where you could completely offset any kind of penalty that the Dragon Breath rounds came with. Plus, MW19 had a much faster time to kill than COD World War II and Black Ops 4, meaning the fire shotguns were even more obnoxious because you could burn someone to death from completely stupid distances. The fire shotguns in the game completely plagued the smaller maps. If you loaded into a match on shipment, you had a few seconds apiece before the flames started flying everywhere. I mean, I still don't think fire shotgun should have ever been added to Call of Duty, but at this point, there's no going back. I mean, Pandora's fiery box, it's been opened and they will not ever shut it. Black Ops Cold War. This is a unique one. I think Cold War was widely seen as the best post-Warzone era Call of Duty game until the Modern Warfare 3 revival, but still has a pretty large following, decently sized player base, and a lot of people think that it perfectly blends the old school COD feel with the new school mechanics and gunsmith options. Do you agree? But there was some controversial aspects to it. One of those was the airborne elastic wrap. Seemed to be a crutch attachment for anyone trying to sweat. It quickly became known as a sweaty choice for players that took the game too seriously. It drastically sped up the movement of everything. It buffed your ADS time, reduced your flinch, which was a huge crutch in a game with longer time to kill, and it only cost, it was like a minor nerf to your shooting movement speed. Oh no. And your sprint to fire time, which could be offset with another attachment. Oh no. It's also pretty necessary if you wanted to drop shot. It became one of the most attachments that was way too essential to the overall experience of the game. Treyarch never adjusted this one. The way they adjusted everything else in the game, which is odd. But if I had to pick a most hated attachment in the game, the attachment that got the most salt thrown at it, it's probably this one. Call of Duty Vanguard. Once again, the fire shotguns plague everything. With how quickly Vanguard played, as well as the fact that there was 10 freaking attachment slots on all weapons, incendiary ammo, it did become the most hated thing in the game. I mean, it was much easier to abuse their strengths while erasing their weaknesses, right? Incendiary rounds were available on all the rifles and all the SMGs, which makes absolutely no sense in a World War II game, but whatever. I mean, the fire shotguns, that's where they were hated. All in a game that was already widely hated by the community. Incendiary ammo in Vanguard worked the same way it did in every other COD game, but with faster movement and absurd gunsmith, blueprints, whatever. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. I'm pissed off. Let's move on. Modern Warfare 2. The FSS OLV laser. I mean, another crutch, right? They should have just made all of its effects universal to the game. This laser was available for most of the guns in the game. It would give you a massive boost to your ADS speed and sprint to fire speed. Overall, made the game feel quicker. Now, the laser was visible to enemies, but the benefits to equipping this thing were so great that the community really didn't care that they were basically being punished for doing it. People were that desperate for the game to play faster than it did. They were perfectly willing to have a viable or visible laser on their guns if it meant they weren't moving slower than a slug in quicksand. Again, Infinity Ward really should have taken note of how popular this attachment was and just made the effects universal, because it ended up being a huge point of negative attention in the community. Literally everyone was running this visible laser on their gun, destroying the flow of the game because you could always see people coming, and yet you couldn't stop them. Modern Warfare 3. Jack. Mr. Jack, the BFB. I think Sledgehammer did their best to balance the BFB, which apparently stands for Big Effing Break, according to Sledge, which I kind of like. But at the end of the day, the trade-offs weren't nearly strong enough to stop people from using it. The benefits were way too strong. The BFB was a comically large muzzle brake that would make your gun really loud and actually make you show up for longer on enemy minimaps, but when you fired it, it turned the gun into a laser beam. Almost entirely eliminated the recoil regardless of how much kick the gun had to start with. So you could take a gun that was really strong but kicked like a mule, slap the BFB on it, and you now had a laser beam that still hit as hard as the naked version did. Who cared if the gun was louder or your red dots were visible for a second or two longer? You had a laser beam in your hand. The enemy couldn't challenge you, so whatever. Yeah. Black Ops 6. Just in general, I mean, when's the last time you saw one in Black Ops 6 running a gun with a suppressor? There's a few different kinds of suppressors. Certain ones have special buffs in addition to keeping you off the radar, but the fact that the suppressors are basically universal at this point, it's kind of annoying. I know I'm not the only one who thinks that. Frankly, I miss when Call of Duty suppressors were just suppressors. They didn't do extra stuff. They didn't boost your range, speed up your bullets, or anything random. Just make suppressors again, and maybe they'll stop being universal. Black Ops 7. Now, I'm going to go anything rapid fire. There's a few different attachments in Black Ops 7 that will increase your fire rate, and on some guns you can actually stack them on top of each other and get a double or even triple rapid fire build, which is stupid. I'm sure you've been playing Black Ops 7, you've seen people running the absurd triple rapid fire AN-94, but there's plenty of other guns that could be toxic too. So for this entry, I'm going to say the most hated attachment in Black Ops 7 is anything that serves as a rapid-fire buff, because the community seems pretty fed up. And last but not least, some COD Mobile love. The OWC Laser Tactical. It's just a crutch attachment, and those generally get on the community's nerves. This thing does too much, and there isn't much of a trade-off. So basically, everyone is running it all the time. It speeds up your strafe speed. It drastically speeds up your ADS animation, all at the small cost of having the laser be visible, which we talked about earlier, which shouldn't be that big of a deal in a game where people are playing on their phones, and they're not going to be able to see your laser 9 times out of 10. So yeah, the OWC TAC laser is a crutch. I mean, for such a massive game with so many guns and attachments, I'm honestly impressed that COD Mobile managed to be a game where there aren't many attachments that I would call hated, but I had to put something here, so there it is. Hope you guys have a great day. Check out Jimmy Golf.